back to my channel. I am Princess, and today I will be starting a new series on my channel. The title of this series will be called Princess Speaks, and it is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've wanted to do for so many years, probably about the past 3 or 4 years. But to be honest with you guys, fear and anxiety have kept me from doing it, because in order for me to serve the purpose that I want with this series, it requires me to be transparent, and it requires me to share my testimony about my life. And I don't have a problem doing with that. I've done it so many times on a one-on-one level with other people, but to do it on YouTube on such a huge stage, you know, it makes me a little bit nervous. But I don't believe that God gave me this platform just to talk about your outer appearance, just to talk about how to do your makeup and your hair. I truly believe that God gave me this platform to talk about how to feel beautiful inside, to speak to your inner beauty. And for a lot of us who have dealt with painful situations, it can have the tendency to turn you ugly. It can make you angry and resentful and mean and judgmental and hostile. And you know, you can't be the best you that you can be if you're carrying all that darkness in your heart. So my goal is to help you be beautiful on the outside, but also to be beautiful on the inside by talking through some of the issues that we share, some of the things that we've gone through. Some of these videos, or not all these videos, they may not speak directly to you, but they may be able to help you speak to someone else. So you may watch this video and you may be able to share it with someone who needed to hear it or needed to see it. And I hope that this will create a safe place to talk and discuss and to encourage the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so that's what Princess Speaks is about, and I want to go ahead and get into our first topic. So the first topic of the series will be focused on abusive relationships. I myself was in an abusive relationship for about 6 years. Before I get into my story and to start to, I guess, share with you my story, I want to talk about the different types of abuse and the signs that your significant other may be abusive, okay? So the first type of abuse is the one that we all know and hear about all the time, that is physical abuse. Of course, that is when someone brings harm to you physically. That can be hitting you with a closed fist, an open fist, an object, pushing you, choking you, slamming you into things, anything that results in physical pain to your body. Okay? Then we have sexual abuse. Within a relationship, you can be sexually abused. So no matter what, no matter if you are in a relationship or out of a relationship, whenever you say no, no means no, no matter what. So yes, people can be victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse in relationships. So we know that sexual abuse or sexual assault can be done by physically restraining someone and forcing them to perform intercourse against their wills. However, we do have sexual coercion, which is one that's not really talked about as much. And with that type of abuse, you are tricked. Well, I don't want to say tricked. You're forced. Usually you're given an ultimatum. So you're not being physically restrained into that type of situation, but you're being mentally and emotionally put into a situation where you feel like you don't have a choice. You're being forced. You know, the threat of physical violence can be a form of coercion into intercourse against your will. You know that if you don't do it, you're gonna get beaten, so you might as well just do it. Or being told, well, if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. So the thought of this particular person stepping out on you and cheating on you with someone else makes you feel like, well, dang, if I don't do it, then he's just going to go find someone else to do it, and I don't want to be cheated on, or I don't want to be, you know, messed over, so I guess I have to do it. that type of thing. So that is a form of abuse. If someone is always laying on you emotionally and mentally and making you feel like you don't have a choice but to do it, that is a form of sexual abuse. Okay. Then you have mental and emotional abuse. I put them together because they're kind of cousins or sisters and brothers actually. So to be mentally abused is to pretty much just to break down your thoughts of yourself, how you feel about yourself. So someone telling you, oh, you're too fat, you'll never find anybody who will love you like I do, or you too skinny. Don't nobody like skinny people. You better be glad that I'm the one that's with you, because nobody else is attracted to that. Or you have 3 kids. Nobody else is going to want you with 3 kids. You might as well stay with me. I'm the best you ever going to get. You know, so you might as well just deal with them. That type of thing. And then we have the emotional abuse. That's that tug and pull, that emotional roller coaster that abusers like to send their victims on. They will beat you up, and then 5 minutes later hug and kiss on you and apologize and tell you, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna change, it's never gonna happen, you made me do it, why'd you make me hit you, you know I don't want to put my hands on you, but you made me do it, you shouldn't have never did this. Flipping the script and putting the blame on you and making you feel bad for them, making you take responsibility for the things that they did. And it just confuses you and makes you feel like, well, is it really my fault? Did I really do something? Maybe I provoked him, or maybe I provoked her. And then we have spiritual abuse. Now, this is not one that's I've ever heard talked about. But for me, my spirituality is my faith. It's very, very, very important to me. And the moment that my faith got broken, the moment that my spirit was broken, I was at my lowest point. For most people who have a belief in something bigger than themselves, and you know that in most cases, most situations where you're in despair, that is what keeps you going, believing that God is going to pull you out of your situation, believing that there is a promise that belongs to you, that you will reap once your storm is over, believing that someone is watching over you and protecting you and keeping you safe. All of those things are a lifeline. They keep you going. They keep you motivated. And for me, in my relationship, my spirituality was broken, okay? One of them is that your significant other may be very insecure, not jealous, but insecure, to the point to where if you speak to someone in passing, hey, good afternoon, he'll be like, so where you know him from? Controlling. They want to control everything that you do. They're very dependent on you, either financially or emotionally or both. They may have experienced some type of trauma in their own childhood or in their own life. They have abandonment issues. They will try their best. They will isolate you from your friends and your family, because your friends and your family are your lifeline. The people around you, they love you and they care about you. They don't want to see you being hurt. They want to protect you, and they will try to protect you. And he doesn't want, or she doesn't want, people around you that will kind of make you open up your eyes and say, you know what, this person is no good for me. So they want to keep you away from those people that'll make you look at them as someone other than their loving significant other. Okay. They get very angry and they do not want to be alone. Another thing, I have found that most abusers have very low self-esteem, and they are very demeaning in front of people. So my particular abuser never was disrespectful or demeaning to me around my friends and family. Of course not, because that was my support system. But when we were around his friends and his family, he would embarrass me so bad. He would talk so bad to me and make me feel so small. And again, that was just an exertion of control and a display of his power. It's a way to show that, I wear the pants. I run this relationship, and because I was just so emotionally unstable at the time, my only response to that was to cry. I was just so embarrassed, and I never wanted to go anywhere with him and be around people because I was always afraid that he was going to make me feel small. Okay, and talking about my story, I'm going to try my best to keep my story very short, because there's so much that I could talk about. It was a 6-year relationship. So if I miss anything, or if I don't hit on anything and you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, or you can send me an email and I can address them to you directly. All of my contact information will be in the description box anyway. Okay, so my story. How can I keep this really quick and precise? I was in a 6-year relationship with, we're going to call him John. We started dating the summer of my freshman year of college. And as I previously stated, this was during a time of my life where things in my family were just really spiraling out of control. I was already somewhat slightly depressed and lonely, and I just had a lot going on. I had a huge weight that I was carrying on my shoulders, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about that in future videos. So at the time that we connected, I was really in need of someone. I was really in need of a support system. We both had very troubling upbringing, so I kind of felt like a kinship with him, like he understood some of my issues and some of the things that I was feeling and some of the things that I was going through, because we related on a lot of things. And so, you know, it was cool. You know, we started off being really good friends, and then that evolved into a romantic relationship. And from there, things took off really fast. He ended up moving in with me, and we were pretty much inseparable. In the beginning of the relationship, everything was pretty good. I did notice that he was jealous. At the time, to me, that was just cute. But that jealousy eventually spiraled out of control to severe insecurity. I don't know when or where or how this kicked up. It's just he went from being this cute, lovable, oh, I'm just jealous because that's my boo, and you know, that's my baby, and I don't want nobody, you know, to try to get at her, to accusing me of having sexual relations with every guy that made eye contact with me. He ran off all of my male friends. And I had a very unstable childhood, so I moved around a lot. And so the friends that I went to college with were the friends that had done the work, that, you know, my friends and I had done the work to keep in touch. So these were like brothers to me. And I felt like I didn't have a choice but to let them go, but to disconnect myself from them, to show and prove to John that I loved him, and that, you know, there was no other guy that I was going to put before him, and, you know, that he could trust me. That's where the beginning of him disconnecting me from my support system began. It began with him forcing me to cut off all of my male friends as an expression of my faithfulness to him. Okay, so it started off little by little. Okay, so after doing that, he eventually ended up pushing me away from my other friends. And it got to the point to where nobody really wanted to be around me, because to be around me was to deal with him. If he felt like they were encroaching on him and his time, then he would lash out and be mean and ugly to them. And I found myself apologizing for his behavior around my friends all the time. And he always embarrassed me. Whenever we were with his family or his friends, he was rude. He would talk crazy to me. He would curse me out. He would snap on me. I mean, you know, when I think back on it right now, it just makes me angry, and it makes me mad at myself, because it's like, Princess, really, why did you deal with that? You know, but we're going to answer that question in a second. But it just makes me so angry, because that is uncharacteristic of who I am as a person. I've never been the person to take crap from anybody, but for some reason, I just let him run all over me. I just let him break me down. So he went from isolating me from my friends and slowly pushing my family away to just taking away my desire to even leave the house. So then my life started be consumed with him work, and school. That's it. So it was always just he and I. And so I had nobody to call. I had nobody to lean on. I had nobody to talk to. I had nobody to save me from him, because nobody knew what I was doing, or nobody knew what I was going through, because I did such a good job of hiding and concealing it with just being busy with work, busy with school, busy with dealing with family issues. And in all actuality, I was just afraid. I was scared to try to leave the house. I was afraid to try to do anything without him, because it always turned into this big altercation between he and I. After being in a relationship with him for a few years, I became really helpless. I used to praise dance, and I would go to praise dance practice I would go to praise dance practice like twice a week, and practice would last for a few hours, and praise dance was really, really important to me. And it was my ministry. It is something that I really held close to my heart, and that I was really proud of. But then that stopped, because whenever I would go to praise dance practice, when I got home, it was a big issue. I wasn't really at praise dance practice. I was over some guy's house, and oh my God, you name it, he accused me of doing it. Even going to church. Me going to church became an issue, because long time before he came into the picture, I dated my pastor's godson. So me going to church was just so I can see my ex-boyfriend. So spiritually I was broken. I was disconnected from my friends, disconnected from my family. Then he pulled the plug on my relationship with God, because I stopped going to church. I stopped going to praise dance practice. And again, all of this was to appease him and to make him feel more comfortable. I was consistently making sacrifices to show him and to prove to him that I was worthy of his love, that I was worthy, because I felt like I had to. And then I finally just said, you know what, nothing that I'm doing is working, so maybe I need to fast and pray and become celibate. So I sat down with him, and I had a conversation with him, and I told him that, how I was feeling about our relationship, that I felt like we needed to grow, and I wanted us to get better, because I loved him and I wanted to spend forever with him, blah, blah, blah. And I decided to become celibate, and I asked him to fast and pray with me. Of course, he did not do it, but I did it. And within that relationship, honestly, that's the best thing that I did, because that really opened my eyes. And this happened within into our third year of our relationship, going into fourth year of our relationship. And I was celibate pretty much until the end of our relationship, so 2 to 3 years, okay? And during that time, I fasted and I prayed, and I began fasting and praying for our relationship. Then, I was like, you know what? I don't care about this relationship or where this goes. I need to fast and pray for myself, because I felt myself spiraling out of control. I started to feel so extremely depressed that I didn't want to get out of the bed. I was taking too much of my medication. I had ended up taking medication for anxiety, and I was taking sleeping pills, because my anxiety was so high that I could not sleep. I was always on pins and needles and eggshells around him, because I was afraid to make him mad. And so I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep. I would go 3-4 days without sleeping. So I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I need to do this for me. Regardless to what happens in this relationship, I need to do it for me. So I fasted and I prayed, and I was celibate, and that pissed him off. Because in me doing that, I was again reestablishing a lifeline. I was reestablishing my spirituality, reestablishing my faith and my relationship with God, and that in itself made me stronger. When he started to see that I was getting the strength to stand up for him, because I was remembering God's promises, I was remembering, what God had for me, that I was the head and not the tail, and I was, remembering what true love is, that God dying on that cross, or Jesus dying on that cross, was the was the greatest expression of love ever. And if that Jesus will do it for me, that means I'm worthy. That means I'm worth it. That means I'm worth somebody caring about and loving me, because I'm blood bought, you know. And I started to get authority in God, and it pissed him off. So then eventually our relationship went from him just being emotionally and psychologically abusive to me, and then it started to escalate, and spiritually abusive, might I add. Then it started to escalate to him being physical and sexually abusive. So when he no longer had a hold on my mind and my emotions, because I became strong, and I started to stand up to him and tell him what I was not going to do, what I was not going to accept. I started to defend myself against all of the names that he would call me and all of the accusations that he would put on me, and I just stopped caring about his opinion. At that time, I had completely fallen out of love with him, and I would tell him, I don't love you anymore. So he had lost a grip on my emotions, and he lost a grip on my spirituality, but mentally I was still broken, but I was getting stronger. So to be celibate is to abstain from intimacy, which I shouldn't have been doing in the first place, but it's to abstain from intimacy. And so with that tied into him accusing me of being promiscuous. So when I took that from him, and when I just made a point to not have that component in our relationship anymore, especially because I didn't love him, and I told him I love me more, and I'm doing this for me, and I'm sorry if you can't understand that. And I pretty much gave him an ultimatum, and I said, either you be abstinent with me and you be celibate with me, or you can go and do what you want to do with anybody else. And at that time I was hoping that would make him break up with me, but it didn't. He thought that he can control my decision and break me, you know, back into what he wanted me to do. And he did for a little while. So I was coerced into doing what I didn't want to do. I was coerced. So I dealt with, at that point, sexual coercion. And when that no longer worked, he became physical with me. The first time that he put his hands on me, he pushed me so hard, I thought that I was going to put a hole through the wall. And it was like a switch went on in my head right there. And I was like, no, I cannot, I will not deal with this. And at that time, I started to plan how I was going to leave. I started to try to figure out, how am I going to leave this relationship? It still took some time after that, you know, and I did still endure some of the abuse. He never really beat me. So I want to clear that up, because I know there are going to be some people who don't know this story who are going to watch it, and I'm not trying to paint him out necessarily as a monster, because, you know, hurt people. He was a hurt person, and he did go through a lot. He had his own issues, you know, and he took his issues out on me. And I'm not making an excuse for him, because wrong is wrong, you know, and nobody should ever be subject to what I had to go through. And there are people who have it way worse than I had to go through. And keep in mind that I'm only disclosing small, you know, snippets of my personal situation. But, you know, yeah, I left before it could escalate to anything like that. I just knew that somebody was going to end up in jail. Me or him, because I absolutely refused to deal with that. So one day I just jumped up and I packed the bag and I left, and I never went back. At that point in time, I didn't care, because I felt things becoming very volatile, and at that point I started to get scared, and there was nothing keeping me there. I had gained my strength back through my faith, to where he couldn't hold me anymore. And I felt that because he was losing control, that it was just going to get worse. And I got scared and I left. That's a really hard question to answer. And I definitely can't speak for everybody. So I can only speak for myself. As I stated in the beginning of my story, when John came into my life, I needed somebody. I was dealing with so much by myself. I just needed a little glimpse of happiness. And at that time, he seemed like that little glimpse of happiness. I grew up feeling worthless, feeling unworthy. I was abandoned by both of my parents. And so I always had in my mind that, if your own parents didn't care enough to stick around and take care of you and protect you and keep you safe and make sure you had everything that you needed, why would a complete stranger? Why would anybody else? That was always in my mind. So when this guy came into my life and seemed to be everything that I needed: security, love, a support system, I embraced it to the fullest. And because I was yearning and I had such a big hole in my heart and I already felt worthless, I didn't feel worthy, I just couldn't believe that, oh my God, this guy really likes me and he loves me, and oh my God, this has to be what love is. This has to be what it feels like. Because my picture of love that I had seen my whole life, it was no picture. We learn how to love and we learn how to care for people, and we learn who we are and what to accept and what not to accept. We learn that first from our parents, and I didn't have them there to teach me that. So to me, that's what love looked like. Love looked like, love looked abusive to me. Love looked like being taken for granted. Love looked like, accepting what you can get, because that's all you're going to get. And love just looked painful to me, because that's all I had ever experienced. So that's what it looked like to me. And I didn't know any better. I didn't have my dad there to show me how a man is supposed to treat a woman. And when my mom was around, and for the snippets of time that I saw her in relationships with other people, those too were abusive. I remember being a little girl, seeing my mom being thrown into an entertainment system and glass being shattered everywhere, and me trying to jump on the person who was fighting her, hitting her back, and me being slung into a wall. That's what I grew up thinking that love was. And because I felt unworthy, and because I felt that was the best that I was going to get, I accepted being treated like trash. And I accepted being treated like dirt. I accepted being told that I'm the best that you're going to get. I accepted all of it because I felt like that's all I deserved. Because I never saw anything different. And that sucks, And it took me building my faith and building my relationship with God to see that somebody does love me. God loves me. My parents may not have loved me the way that they should have, the way that they were supposed to, but God loves me. And He gave His Son, and His Son died for me. And that is the greatest expression of love that anybody could ever give to me. And that's what brought me out of my relationship, was my faith. My faith in God, and me leaning on Him and depending on Him. And, for anybody out there that is in an abusive relationship, I want you to know that you don't deserve that. That there is so much more to life. And love does not hurt. Love doesn't hurt. It's not supposed to. Love is not perfect. Love is not, rainbows and butterflies every day. But love doesn't beat you down. Love doesn't break you. Love doesn't make you feel worthless. Love doesn't throw you into walls. Love does not choke you. Love does not force you to have sex when you don't want to. Love does not break your spirituality. Love does not make you feel worthless. It doesn't. And I know that the process of leaving an abusive relationship is a hard one, because for so long I didn't love this man. I didn't love this guy I was with, but I felt like I had to stay. I felt like it's like almost like you're brainwashed to believe everything that your abuser tells you when you're in an abusive relationship. You're brainwashed and you believe it, and it's scary. It's scary to think about what life is like outside of that relationship, because you've had someone monitoring and dictating and holding you to this specific schedule or this specific routine for so long that you don't even know what it's like to be yourself anymore. I totally lost myself. I lost who I was. I lost who I was in that relationship, and in the process, I lost some really great friends. I don't even know where they are now. I lost some really great friends. It even had an impact on my time to build and bond relationships with my sorority sisters, with my line, because after I crossed into Delta, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything because he didn't want me to. And it was literally a fight every time I wanted to. Literally, a literal fight. A tussle. Me trying to get out of the door and him telling me I can't go. He don't want me to go. Or if he would let me go. When I came back, it was, I was put on trial. So what I will say is that people who stay in abusive relationships, they stay because they feel like that's what they deserve. And it takes people around them, and it takes themselves figuring out and finding out what they deserve. And once they figure it out, it takes them having to work through how to escape. So it is a process. So don't ever judge anybody for being in a relationship that's abusive and saying, well, why won't they leave? Why won't they get out? It's a process. It's a process. And I encourage you to encourage people that you may know to figure out, to help them realize their worth. That's the beginning. Help them. Help yourself. If this is for you, if you have a friend, help your friend realize what they are worth. Okay? Help them realize that. Okay? Once they realize what they're worth, they'll want to leave, but they'll need your help. They'll need a way out. They'll need an escape route. So help them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some resources in the description box below, hotlines and websites. If you're here in Houston, I'll leave some organizations that I know will help abuse victims and their families and their children get out of an abusive relationship. And I want you to know you deserve more. You don't have to deal with being in an abusive relationship. You deserve more. I deserved more. And I finally figured it out, and it was the best thing I could have ever done, because now I'm married. I have a husband that loves me, that really loves me. And I never, ever thought that would be my story. I never thought that it would be my story, but it can be your story too. So just trust in God, trust in yourself. And if you don't feel like nobody loves you, just know that I love you. I do. And I'm praying for you. I'm praying for anybody who watches this video and is in this situation. I am praying for you. And I am praying that God gives you the strength and the resources to get up and to go. Okay? So, I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to get all emotional, but, you know, this is my life. And talking about it has made me, it has brought up some memories of some things that I experienced, and it's painful, you know, it's painful, you know, but I thank God and I give him all the glory in my life right now, because I'm not there anymore. That's not my life anymore. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right here, because anything from here on out will be rambling. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, or you can email me directly. I really hope that this video was a blessing to you or to someone that you know. If you know someone that can benefit from this video, please share it. Please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel so that you can be here for the next Princess Speaks video. I love you guys so very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I don't care what nobody says about you. You are perfectly imperfect. Love all of you, because God does, and I do too. You guys have a wonderfully blessed day, and I'll see you in my next video.